working on for quite some time. And I have a PowerPoint presentation for you guys so that we can share information and pictures and so on. So you can understand what we are doing and what we've found related to the story of your father and grandfather. Okay, so I don't know exactly how I can share the screen.
Yeah,
You
it
see.
should be an option on your the control bar. There should be a green button somewhere
Yes,
that says
yeah.
share, and it'll ask you what do you want to share. You can share your screen or a window. There we go.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
yes, we can see
You have it?
your
Ah,
desktop.
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wait. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I think I've done a mistake. 2 hour, right?
2 hours.
Oops.
Well
Oops.
spotted.
Excuse me. Okay. So today we're going to do a deep dive into a history, and we're going to focus on the story of your father and grandfather, and especially on the first few weeks when he was in France. Well, I don't exactly know. Well, I don't know what you know about that, how much he talked about it. Uh,
No, no,
no,
no,
nothing,
nothing.
nothing. He wouldn't talk about his
You wouldn't
experience.
talk about it. No.
Okay, so I guess you're gonna learn things today. I hope so. So, and yes, we're gonna focus on the period between the crash of his plane from June 23rd, 1944, to about 3 weeks later, mid-July. That's the day he was arrested. Okay. Um, okay, let's go again. Let's go ahead. And then, okay, let's start with who we are. I mean, so we wanted to introduce, us as, passionate researchers about World War II. And Dominique, who's with us today, he's the president of the ASA, which is Association des Sauveteurs d'Aviateurs Alliés. It's a non-profit organization who focuses on the people in France who helped downed airmen. Okay. Um, and he's also focusing on a very specific department, a region of France, which is called Oise. It's located about 50 miles north of Paris. Okay, and that's where the story takes place. He has a huge, amount of experience on research on airplane crashes and crews and evasion and so on, more than 25 years. He has organized some very successful projects, including people coming from either the USA or Australia or England, coming to France to walk in their father's steps, if you understand what I mean. And that's something we also do together. I joined the party a few years ago, and so I'm a member of this organization since 2017.
Buchenwald.
I've got also some experience on research on escape and evasion, and especially for the French helpers. Okay, people who devoted time, energy, and money to help the airmen escape and avoid capture. And I have a very special interest in the story of all the men who were arrested and sent to Buchenwald. Um, it's called the KLB Club. I don't know if you've heard about this expression.
No,
And
I don't think
no,
so.
actually, the club was established during the time in Buchenwald, and because they said after the war we want to be able to connect together and meet again if some people are interested to do that. And we'll talk about this story a little bit later. Okay. Can you hear me well? Do you understand my
Yes.
English, my
Yeah.
broken English?
Yeah. All good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Impeccable.
Okay, and Dominic has his own website on the left, and I've got also my website on the right. Well, I'll send you a slide, of course, so no need to take notes. Okay, I will send you the slides if you're interested to visit these websites. Okay, so let's start the deep dive. We are on June 23rd, 1944. So your grandfather was part of a mission to destroy the marshalling yards of Laon, which is a town located on the east side of Paris. And it's part of a huge plan which was called the transportation plan. I don't know if you heard that expression. So the goal was for the British Air Force and the US Air Force to bomb all kind of equipments or infrastructure to avoid having the Germans come to Normandy quickly, because we were of course a few weeks after the D-Day, and the goal was to avoid having tanks or whatever material the Germans would send to Normandy. So that's part of that major plan. So during that night, more than 200 aircraft were requested for the mission by the Bomber Command, including 22 Halifax from Squadron 78, which is the squadron where your father was acting. So there were 22, so 10% about 10% of aircraft coming from Squadron 78. And during that night, two Halifaxes were lost. One was LK 840 and the other one is MZ 692. Okay, and these are the maps of the places where these two planes crashed. And well, it's about 10 miles away. One is located on the bottom left, and the other one on the top right of the screen. And these are places that Dominic and I are very, very familiar with. All these names, all these small towns. It's really, a remote location. We are on the countryside, okay, with small villages around. And the crash site of the Halifax MZ692 is very well known to us because, as you'll see later, we had some families coming back in October of last year. Families coming from Australia, because it was an Australian, mostly Australian team crew. And we had a great visit with them, and we showed them all the places. That was really impressive and emotional, of course, for these families. And of course, okay, the Halifax LK 840, that's your father's airplane. He crashed near a city called Quincampoix. You can see it on the bottom left here. That's a very small village. And the plane crashed in a field. And the next slide is about, two pictures. These are quite rare pictures of the crash. So I don't know, these pictures were colorized. They were black and white, and they turned it into a color. Using the technology that we have today, and so you can see what remains of the crash. And if you have a close look here, you can see people around, wandering in near the plane crash. I don't know what to find, but there were of course people from the village coming to see what happened. And the village is on the background here. Okay.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, that's the plane crash. I think the pictures were taken maybe a few days or maybe the next day after the crash, in June 24. Okay. As you might know, 4 of the crew were killed during the crash, either because they couldn't escape the plane, or I don't know, for some reason their parachute didn't open correctly. It's not known to us at this point. But there were some, very emotional funerals organized. These are the pictures that were taken during the funerals. And there was, as you can see, there was a huge crowd of people coming for the funerals. And well, the Germans would let people, attend these funerals, but also I think for the French, it was a sign of maybe defiance, against the German occupation. The French were, fed up with having the Germans in our country, and they were, for them, these men were heroes. They gave their lives for us, French, to free our country. So that's why there were so many people coming during these events. Dominique, do you want to say something or add something?
Yes, you know we were under German occupation, but the German soldier let the funeral do.
Yeah,
Do.
they.
Do.
I think
Les
maybe
Allemands?
they also have some respect for these men
Yes.
to have funerals organized. And I think these four men still are in the cemetery of Quincampoix, correct, Dominique?
Yes.
Yes, you
Yes.
have gravestones.
Yes. Yes.
You have the gravestones of these four
Four,
men inside the
four
cemetery.
stones. Yes.
Four, yes. Okay. Let's have a look at the exact location of the crash that Dominique was able to identify very, very accurately.
Yes.
It's a place called le Champ de Dion. I would say the Dion Field in English. I don't know if it translates well. So here you have the village of Quincampoix. It's a higher zoom, and the crash really happened there, on that field. And on the right side, you have another photo or picture that Dominic took while he was on a plane, and he was able to take a picture from above. And the crash probably happened in that area, somewhere in that area.
Yes.
Dominic, correct me if I'm wrong, but you searched the field and for
Maybe
items or
it was maybe 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, I went. I want to know where exactly the plane crashed, and I walk in the field, and suddenly I found some me- metal metal parts. Tu me corriges, Franck, si c'est pas bon.
No, c'est bon. It's okay.
Some metal parts with a rivet. So, and I found many pieces of the plane, small pieces. You know, the big part were removed by the German after the crash. But in the film, even today, you can find some pieces of the plane in the film. Yes.
Okay.
Some bullet. The 03, 03, you know, the caliber. You understand English?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They understand English.
The guns, the bullets for the guns and the
Yes.
plane.
Caliber 303, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So if back to the picture, you can see on the background here, well, the village is right there on the top left. And here, this is actually the cemetery.
Franck,
Oui,
est-ce que je vais descendre dans mon garage là et je vais remonter avec un panneau avec des morceaux de l'avion?
d'accord, ok,
J'en ai pour 1 minute,
ok,
ok? Et je vous montrerai la vidéo, les morceaux que j'ai trouvés.
ok, j'avance dans la présentation.
Ok, je
Ok.
reviens.
Okay, so Dominique is coming back. He has a few things to show you. So yeah, I was saying that, well, the crash happened there, and the airmen are buried into this the cemetery, which is located remotely from the village, right there. It's just a few hundred yards from the plane crash, actually. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. If you have questions, feel free to to interrupt me with your questions. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the next slide. This is quite interesting. We have worked hard to identify all the places where your father went after the crash. Of course, he parachuted probably very close to the village we saw, and we have identified four main places and four people, four families who helped him. Okay, the first, okay, this is probably where he landed. Okay, you see the parachute? Yeah, the image. Okay, so the first one, the first person who took over, who helped him was Mr. Henri Vincenot. He was a member of the resistance. We'll talk about him. I have a picture of him. He was the very first one to help him. He has helped a lot of other airmen before. So this is something he was used to do. And very quickly, he gave the airman to a lodger, someone who was of confidence, he could trust, Mr. Enon, and he stayed about 2 weeks there, from probably June the 24th to July 6th. So that's a bit more than 2 weeks. So he was helped by that family, who of course took a lot of risks, because if they were denounced or found by the German, that they could be killed on the spot.
Yeah.
Reported directly.
Can I ask, Frank, the approximate distance from where he parachuted to the first Henri Vincenot? Is that like a mile or two, or what sort of
It's
distance
a very
is it?
short distance, I would say less than a mile.
Less than a mile.
The village of Wavigny, you can see here, is probably a mile away from Quincampoix, so
Yeah.
half a mile. Okay, it's just a few fields to get there.
Okay.
It's maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes to walk to the village.
So
And
he
Wavigny
really,
was a place of resistance. There were many people involved in the resistance, but something terrible happened right after he left. So 2 weeks with the Enon family right there, very close, the village next to Ansovillers.
Yep.
And then he had to leave on July 6th, and he was sent to the family, a very famous family, Count and Countess de Bénat. They're famous friends. I'll tell you later. And then he stayed only one night there, and then he was sent to another village, to Christian Covel's house in Ménil-Saint-Firmin. And that's the end of the this escape, because he was arrested there. We'll talk about that later. We have some details of all of this.
yeah.
Dominique, you wanted to show them something?
Right. Could you stop sharing the slides just so we can see the Dominique's picture a little bit more? If you
Yes,
click
sure.
on the green button, it should give you the option to stop sharing on the Zoom window.
Partager.
Pieces of the plane I have found in the field. And I have many more. You can see?
2 seconds. I'm just going to help Frank to
Yes, please.
stop
I'm not very
sharing.
familiar with Zoom.
Okay, now
Okay, super.
these are pieces of the plane.
Yes.
Ah.
Wow, there's a lot.
Yes.
And this is what you collected from the field.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Ah, this is part of the plane. Wow.
Yeah, impressive. And that was 10 years ago?
About 10 years ago. Yes.
Yeah. So you can still find pieces. You just go with a metal detector,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then you find plenty.
But even without, sometimes on the field, with you, just with your eyes, you can find pieces on the surface.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes. You know the part, always, elle remonte. Les morceaux remontent. You understand?
Yeah, the pieces of the plane they come back to surface
Yes.
because the field is
Plugged.
returned and yes.
It's
Every
like,
year the field is plugged.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know how. I think I can you still see me?
no, we can see you, but not your screen, so you'll need to try and find your Zoom window again and find the green share button.
Where is the zoom in window? Oops. Capture l'écran.
At the bottom, there may be a blue Zoom icon or window.
I think I'm lost somewhere.
Qu'est-ce qui se passe?
Je sais pas, j'arrive plus à.
Pause the recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back. Okay, so back to the routes, the escape route. So we saw the four main places. So let's get into more detail now. I'm going to talk about Henri Vincenot. He was a very active, member of the resistance. He was also a helper. That's the guy. He was born in 1907. And he was the keeper of the castle of Wavigny. Wavigny is the village, we saw on the map. And he was the keeper of the castle, which was very convenient for him, to help or hide airmen. He also organized, reunions or meetings with other members of the resistance. So he was engaged in the resistance since 1943. And he was a member of what we call the Jacques Bonhomme organization. That's a local organization of resistance against the Germans. He was doing sabotage, train derailment, and so on. And we know that he has sheltered at least 7 airmen, probably 15 airmen, but 7 only were confirmed. Some from the USA, James Bomest, Wendell McConaughey, 2 Canadians, Greenberg and Brown, and from the UK, Fred Carey, Richard Woodsnam, and of course, your grandfather. Okay, what happened is that on July 3rd, he had organized a meeting with other resistance inside the castle, but the Germans were informed by someone, actually a member of this group, who was captured, tortured, and he talked and he gave the names. And so the Germans surrounded the whole castle and the whole village in the morning of the July 3rd. Remember, that's about a week after your father came here. And Carey and Woosnam were still in the castle and they were arrested that day. And Vincenot, he tried to fight back, but he was killed, and I think in front of his wife and kids. That all happened in the morning of the July 3rd, and that was just 1 week after your father was helped by this guy. In June, July, and August of 1944, the Germans were extremely nervous about everything related to the resistance, just because of D-Day and what was happening in Normandy. Of course, finding airmen, downed airmen, and capturing them was a top priority for them because they knew that the limiting factor was not the planes, it was the pilots of the airmen. Because it takes so much time to train an airman. I don't know how much training your father did, probably 2 years to 1 or 2 years to get into that plane. And the Germans were very, very active in trying to locate and find these airmen hidden in France.
Mhm.
So
And
oui.
and and that day, many people of the village were caught by the German and sent to deportation camp in Germany.
Yeah,
And
yes,
some lost their life there. Yes,
yeah. They were
it's
either killed on the spot or
mm,
sent to either Buchenwald or other camps in Germany. That,
deport deportation camps. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the next family, and we have some interesting pictures to show you. It was the Hénon family. That's where your father stayed the longer, I think more than 2 weeks there. Here you can see Edmond Hénon, the father, with his two daughters. And we believe, I think he's wearing your father's
Uniform.
uniform.
Ah, right.
Okay.
It's quite bold.
Mhm.
Okay. And the next picture, I think you'll like it. This, well, I think there's no doubt that's your father.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a
I
photo
don't know.
we've
Have
never
you
seen
ever seen that
before.
picture before? No? No. So he
No,
has a
never seen that.
young Michel Galopin. That's a young, she was 8 or 9, I think, at the time. She was adopted by the Hénon family. And I think they created a kind of, interesting connection with this family during his time there. But of course, he had to leave, probably in a hurry. That's typically what happened. He would stay 2 weeks hidden in I don't know, in uh, the basement or maybe in the attic. And then there he had to leave quickly because all the region was searched by the Germans after the arrest that we talked about. So he had to leave, and probably I don't know how he said goodbye to that family, but that probably was a tough time for him. Um, so the next stop was to an interesting place with a Count and Countess de Bénat. It's quite a famous family, especially because that's their castle. So your father stayed probably one night there, either in the castle or in one of her dependency. It's a huge place. They own, I think, the whole wood around, and the castle is quite big, and there's many dependencies. So it was very convenient for them to hide Airman because it was a remote location. It's not in the city. It's really in the middle of nowhere. Of course, they were very active members of the resistance. And what is interesting is that Colette, the countess, she was the sister. So Colette's,
Yes.
yes, she was sister of General Leclerc. I don't know if you've heard about him. He was directly reporting to de Gaulle in England, and
Mm.
he led the French army to free Paris. So he is very, very famous in France. He's
Wow.
a very, very high rank general in our country. Nobody, everybody in France knows him.
Yep.
So she was Colette's sister. So the castle was used as a safe place for numerous resistance fighters and, of course, Allied airmen who tried to hide. But at the time your father arrived in the castle, there was a big problem because the Germans knew that something was going on inside the castle. So it was not safe for him to stay. So that's the reason why he stayed only one night there. And he had to be moved to some other place. So he went the next day with two other airmen who were staying in the castle for way more time. Warren Thompson, I think he stayed 2 months, right, Dominique?
Yes.
2 months in the castle with the Benard family. And another guy who, I think a Canadian, Michael Bzoui, I don't know how to pronounce, Bzoui, who had been staying there at the same time for more than a month. and another resistance guy called Robert Moulet. He took them to another safe house on the 7th of July, the next day. And that's the next stop and the final stop, fortunately. So that's the lady, the school teacher actually of a small village called Le Mesnil-Saint-Pierre. She was a school teacher, Christiane Cauvel, and she also, was in the resistance, and she offered to help whenever it was necessary to hide people or do some things. So yes, she had these three men for a week. Warren Thompson, U.S. U.S. Air Force, of course, your father, RAF, and Michael Zoe, Royal Canadian Air Force. But okay, the bad news is that someone, we don't know exactly how it happened, but someone in the village told the Germans that airmen were hiding in that place. And on July the 15th, well, they came to the house. Well, for Christian, that was she was fortunate enough to be outside her house when the Germans raided the house. She was out trying to get some food for them, so she avoided capture. Zoe also, but he was arrested the next day. And what we know is that Warren Thompson and William Sharratt was then sent to the infamous Fresnes prison, located in the south of Paris, where many airmen were kept in prison for a long time. Then he spent 2 months in Buchenwald. He saw things that, well,
Until October.
yeah, until October the 20th, from August 20th to October 20th. And then I think a German colonel from the Luftwaffe decided that these guys shouldn't be in a concentration camp and should be moved to a regular Stalag Luft 3. I think, Mark, you visited a while ago, correct?
Yes, we
That's
visited
where we
together.
found you on YouTube. Okay. And that was, of course, not the end of the story, because then they had to leave Stalag Luft 3 in February, I guess. And then they walked for, I think, 2 months, and they were then freed by the Americans.
The Death March, la marche de la mort.
Yeah, the Death March
Mm.
for many of them. We have a picture here, which is quite interesting. The guy, the man on the middle, is actually Warren Thompson
Wow.
Oh,
posing in front of the school in Le Mesnil-Saint-Martin. That's the place where he was arrested, actually. He came back to France in 2012
Yeah.
based on Dominique's research. I was not there at the time, but Dominique did a great deal of research, and he convinced him to come to France. He was in 85.
Il était né en 24. Il avait 88. 88.
88. He came to France at the age of 88
Wow.
to visit all the places, and he was extremely. I was not there, unfortunately, but it was very emotional.
Yes.
I met Warren Thompson in the state of New York, where he lived.
Yes.
That was in 2017 or 18. I can't remember.
Yeah.
A great guy, really great
Wow.
guy. He died, I think, 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm.
But he was very interested in, getting back to the place and seeing all these things.
It
so
was,
would he have went to Buchenwald as well with?
Yes,
yes, yes.
He was also arrested, and at the same time went to France, and then took a train. Well, that's not exactly a train. It was cattle cars.
Mm.
During 5 days with limited. There was no room to sit. I mean, it was just crazy conditions to.
Mais
There were more than 2,000 people in the train, all for the resistance, because the Germans had to evacuate all the prisoners because Paris was about to be liberated. it happened on August 15,
Mm.
and Paris was liberated a week after, or 10 days after. So the Germans emptied all the prisons and then sent all these people, poor people, to Buchenwald for the men and Ravensbrück for the women. I don't know how much you know about the story, but there were exactly 169 airmen sent in that train. One of them escaped from the train. So there were actually 168 airmen arriving in Buchenwald and spending 2 months there in the worst
Mais
conditions that
quand tu parles très bien anglais, tu vas leur dire que Warren Thompson, quand on lui parlait de Buchenwald, il ne voulait pas en parler. Il disait non.
Yeah, Warren Thompson wouldn't talk about Buchenwald. He would talk about everything else,
Never, never.
but he would never talk about what he saw in Buchenwald. It was a traumatic experience. I guess that was the same for all the men who went there, and including your father, John. So,
There is a
you have a question?
story that we heard, and I'm not sure exactly the source, but on the cattle trucks to Buchenwald, I think it might have related to one of the airmen escaping, but a prisoner escaped, and the German guards, I think the story goes that they got a young French resistance fighter,
Mm-hmm.
and basically asked him to put his hand up.
Your hand. Yes.
Yeah.
They
Yes,
shot him.
Mm.
They shot him through the hand, and I believe then they made him march down to the river and then just shot him through the head and said, everyone that escapes now, we will shoot, three or four
Yeah. That's another
others.
story we know. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was quite horrific.
Yes, and I think some airmen had to bury him actually near
Is that right?
the train stopped somewhere in the middle of nowhere between France and Germany, and he was buried. I don't know. I don't even know his name. I mean, I've done some research about this young man.
Yeah.
It's but there was no list of all the men who were in the train. We know that we have a list of all those who arrived in Buchenwald, but we have no idea of how many escaped. Well, a few of them escaped and are known, but some were shot, like this young man, and of course I think he was in a car where there were other airmen who witnessed that there were 30 killed on the spot also. Yeah, that's
Very sad.
very, very sad. Yeah.
So can I just ask a question about that last photograph?
Hmm?
Can I ask a question about the previous photograph, the last photograph in front of the school? Yes, this one.
Yes, this one. Yeah.
So if Warren Thompson was arrested with William Sharratt, is this also the school that he was sheltering in? William Sharratt was sheltering in and would have been arrested at also.
Sorry, can you repeat your question? I don't.
No, I think you said Warren Thompson was arrested
Yeah.
Yes.
in the school.
Yeah,
Was
in
this
the school.
same
Yes,
location?
exactly at the same time as William. Same
Yes,
place,
this is
same
also-
time, same
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yes.
So they were hiding in the school?
Yeah, they were hiding in the school.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Just a word about this, the story of these men. I don't know. Well, it's a quite well documented story now. I don't know if you know these books, and there's also a movie that was done recently. Have you heard about these books and a movie? No.
We've seen a lot of video footage and other books and references, but I think these three are new. So these were all about the Buchenwald boys, the Buchenwald Club.
Yeah. Yes. This one was written by Hartkinis and Stanley Booker, and that was, I think, the first one published. Well, no, the second one. The first one was the Destination Buchenwald. And just so you know, Stanley Booker was the very last living member of that club, if you want. He died a month ago.
Is that right?
I was in touch with his daughter. I'm in touch with his daughter, who's writing also the story. But she told me recently that he passed away at the age of 102.
His daughter phoned me and
She found you?
told me about him. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Pat Vinecombe?
Hmm.
Okay. Another interesting book is Colin Burgers' book, Destination Buchenwald. That's the first edition. There's a new release that was done in 2022. That's mostly focusing on the Australian and New Zealand airmen. Okay. And the Lost Airmen of Buchenwald is quite an interesting um, uh, video. You can see, I think on YouTube, you have the trailer available for free. And yes, it's quite interesting to see, and that's quite good
In
movie.
English. In English.
In English.
It's in English, of course. All
Good-
these
good
books
choice.
are okay. And here's oh yeah, I've got also a list of about 10 books.
Mhm.
There's the story of Roy Allen, In the Shadows of War, Missing in Action by John Harvey, Boots from Heaven, G.D. Kaufman, etc., etc. There's a fighter pilot, Joe Moser, James Four, etc., etc. And the last one, story of Phil Lamazon, that he was the leader, as you probably know. He was the highest ranking member of this group.
Mm.
He organized the these airmen to act as a military unit, even inside Buchenwald,
Mhm.
which was driving the Germans crazy. But whenever they were, moving from one place to another place, they were marching, okay, as military people. And that helped them. I mean, acting as a group helped them survive. Of course, you might know that two of them died during the 2 months ordeal. But that's well, actually a miracle that mostly all of them survived Buchenwald.
Mhm.
Even staying 2 months, they lost, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 pounds. During 2 months, there was no food, actually, nothing to eat and drink. Okay.
Actually, they almost starved, or some of them would have starved to death.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'm nearly done. I just want to show you one last slide with pictures. That's the very recent, event that we organized. Dominique and I were the main organizers of that reunion with two families coming from Australia, um, walking the steps of their father. That's the crew of the other, Squadron 78 Halifax that was shut down the same night.
Mhm.
And well, four of these men were also arrested in similar circumstances, and they were also sent to Buchenwald. So we had the pleasure to
But
host
but
this.
before to be arrested, they were hidden by the people of the village.
Mm.
Mhm.
Hein? Tu as compris? Ils se sont d'abord un peu évadés avant d'être pris. Ils n'ont pas été compris.
It's a very similar story. They try to escape, try to go back to England safely, but at some point they run into the wrong people. They were just denounced to the Germans and were sent to.
Mhm.
So we had quite a crowd. On the left, the two pictures on the left are at the crash site, where we show them pictures and so on.
Yeah.
This is Dominique, myself here, and that's Colin Johnston, the son of Eric Johnston, one of the I don't know 11. I think there's about 11 Australian airmen who were sent to Buchenwald.
Yeah.
You got mayors here, etc. That's the village of Poivrel. They organized a huge event for them with many pictures, the food, and it was quite a party. And the last picture here is interesting. It was we were invited by the city of Pantin. Pantin is very close to Paris. That's the place where the train started, the train to Buchenwald. So we were allowed to visit the place because it still belongs to the railway company. But we were allowed to get into that place, and it's quite now a place of memory because more than 2,000 French people left Paris that day, August 15, to Germany.
Mm.
Many of them died.
It was very emotional to be there last
Mm.
last October. Last October.
Yeah, it was very emotional for them.
Australian friends had tears in their eyes. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's going to be the end of this presentation. We just want to tell you that if you want to come to France and do the same kind of visits, you are
Yes,
very
yes, yes,
welcome.
yes.
You'll be very welcome. And you cannot imagine how the French.
I can organize.
Yeah, you can organize the things very well.
I live very close, 20 minutes, and I can organize with the mayor reception. We can you can visit all the places.
Yes, so you will be welcome, and you will be surprised by the level of interest that
Yeah.
all
All right.
event
England,
create in France.
England is not so far from
guys.
France.
Hmm?
England is not so far from France.
This is very true. This is very true.
Yeah, you're less farther than.
Right. Thank you.
And where do you live in England? Where do you live in
We're Scotland actually. Just I'm north of Scotland.
Wow. North
Uh-huh.
Scotland. Wow.
England?
The story was Stanley, William Stanley Sharratt was from Lancashire, which is where our father John grew up until the age of 18. And then John met a Scottish lassie on holiday, around 18-year-old or something about that.
19, yep.
18. And mum was 18, and they became sort of pen pals. They would write letters to each other, and eventually the romance blossomed, and John moved to Glasgow and married Yvonne, and the four boys that you see on the screen tonight are we're the four kind of Scottish descendants from
Okay. I
Stanley.
love Scotland. I went there once, and much better than England.
Yep.
And especially because we don't like the English because they beat us on a rugby.
Yeah,
That's
One
right.
point.
we were supporting France.
Really?
Me too, me too, me too. Just 1 point.
Yeah, the Scots
1 point,
and the
1 point.
French, we hate the English.
You know, I
So
went
we're
to
friends.
I
We are
went to
very friends.
Scotland, I went to Ireland, they don't like the English.
My goodness. Are you in
Okay, well,
touch?
okay. I hope you enjoyed. If you
Yeah, thank you very much.
Can I ask a question before we close?
Sure.
I wonder, you showed the picture of the American airman from New York, and I think you said that William was also sheltered with a Canadian, the Michael. Were there any other RAF prisoners that he would have been in contact with, that would have had a similar experience or been sheltered with that you know of, or was it just these two that he would have kind of come in contact with before he was arrested?
That's a good point.
Pas compris, moi.
You said, do you think he met other airmen?
Yeah, would he have crossed paths with any other RAF airmen, or is it just these would have been the kind of three names that would have been together?
Well, I think probably at the very beginning, where is it? Was it? Yeah, when he was with Masno, probably just stayed one night. I don't think there was enough room for for him to stay in the castle. But he may have met Fred Carey and Richard Woosnam.
Yes, because these men were shot down on June 8, 1944.
Yeah, and they were staying at the same place when he was shot down also. So he might have met them.
So they were shot down the 8th of June. When was William shot down?
Sorry?
When was William shot down?
23rd of June.
June 8 June.
No, William was shot down on 23
Who?
He? Of June. Okay.
Okay. And were Fred Carey and Richard Woosnam, did they become Buchenwald prisoners? Buchenwald also?
No.
They were shot down before on June 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, they were arrested, but for some reason, it's hard to understand how the Germans handled their prisoners, because these men were directly sent to a Stalag. I don't know which one, but they were not part of the Buchenwald Airmen.
No.
Okay.
One of the reasons they were making differences between airmen having their uniform, being, for example, if they were arrested right after the crash, just by landing and they were arrested, they were not considered as spies or traitors or whatever. But whenever an airman was taken or captured in civilian clothes, the Germans decided that they might be spies, or some kind of resistance help for some reason, and they wouldn't accept them to be airmen or POWs. They were not considered as POWs, but as political prisoners. That makes a huge difference. That's why we don't know, for example, why both Zoe, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
He was arrested the next day, but he was not part of the Buchenwald Airmen. He was not sent to Fresnes prison. He was, taken to another, maybe more regular POW, process. So that's very difficult to understand what happened, because he was probably in civilian clothes also. He was wearing civilian clothes at that time, probably. So what happened? We still a mystery, because the Germans would not keep their archives. Everything was destroyed. It's very difficult for us to access information from the German side. We don't know, because all was destroyed when they left. They destroyed all their archives. All the papers were burnt before they left. So that's will stay a mystery forever.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tu peux remettre la photo d'avant
Laquelle?
de Christian Covell là, à l'école.
Oui.
Yes, the man on the right is the mayor of the village.
All right.
And the man on the left is a witness. He was a young man during the war.
Wow.
Yeah.
Est-ce qu'il a rencontré Warren?
Non.
Non.
Non, mais bon, il avait raconté ses souvenirs d'enfance dans le village, tu vois, pendant la guerre.
Okay. He was a witness, but he didn't meet Warren
Airmen.
Thompson during his escape attempt.
Yeah.
No, because the airmen were hidden,
Yeah, nobody
They spoke to nobody.
would have access to them except the lady or the man who hid them. Okay. One thing that I want to add is that we are also when we organize these kind of visits, we also try to find families.
Yes.
Families of the French people who helped. Because the French, families are also very, very interested to know what happened during the war. And it's a way to honor, the memory of their parents or grandparents who helped resistance and helped these airmen.
Yes.
Come to France.
Dad, are you motivated to go and visit?
Yeah, we might do, yes.
So
Yep.
you
I
want?
think it'd be a very good trip to go to France for this, yes.
Have you ever
Great
visited
idea.
France?
Yes.
You know,
And
Yep.
bring me a bottle of whiskey.
which one?
Good whiskey.
I will give you a bottle of good wine.
Yes.
Deal.
Alors,
We have a deal. Okay, we have a deal.
Right.
I'm
Thank
going to stop recording.
Right.